Welcome to Spider-Verse Minute, the tri-weekly podcast where we watch Spider-Man into the Spider-Verse 1 minute at a time. I'm Caroline Slater.
And I'm her brother Sean.
And today we are doing minute 16. It starts with Gwen explaining her name to Miles and ends with a shot of the nurse's office.
And what did you name this minute today?
I named this minute... I named this minute... Miles got game.
Does he, though?
Yeah, he said it himself. Got game.
Does he, though?
This minute proves it, Sean.
Okay. Whatever you say.
Yeah, this minute starts immediately picked up from the last minute where we talked about it. Her name's actually Gwen, but she's giving a fake name to Miles and saying her name is Gwanda. And she says, yes, it's South African.
Yeah, and then she's like, wait a second, I should have an accent. Wait, no, I don't,
I don't have an accent. Yeah, because I was raised here, though.
You can see her, running through all, quickly trying to make this up on the spot.
She's like, I can do this, I can do this.
Yeah, no accent because I'm from here, but...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's very funny.
Yeah. I really liked how they cut to Miles doing his slow-mo hand, and he's just like, why is everything in slow motion? Does it just feel that way?
I love that because it's like, do the shoulder touch now, and it's like kind of panicky, and then it just kind of calm. Am I doing this in slow motion, or does it just feel that way?
Yeah.
It's very self-aware. It's just so funny.
It also feels like it's sort of meta commentary too on how in comic books there's always just way too much dialogue for the speed at which the action is going, where you'll have people have whole paragraphs of text that they say and they're in the middle of two punches, yeah, which should in theory happen a split second apart.
Yeah. I also, one thing I did like in a more practical sense is that is also a very teenage thing where it's like, am I really just this nervous? This feels like it's going in slow-mo. Is it really going in slow-mo? So yeah. It works on multiple levels, and it's just such a good bit, little mini thing. I also really like kind of adding to that worry that Miles is having is that the music in the background is part from... It has a similar motif to the school montage when we're going through his classrooms.
Yeah.
I think it's called, on the score... Brooklyn Visions. Yeah. I think it's number 2 actually, because there's number 1, number 2, and number 3, because it's used different part, and that whistle part is the motif throughout them.
I thought. So on that Brooklyn Visions 1, 2, 3, yeah. I thought that was just counting.
Oh no. Yeah, because it's used because there's the school
3 different times.
There's the school montage when we first see him at Brooklyn Visions. There's that montage. The whistling is not as prominent in that one, but you can hear it slightly. Then there's number 2, which I think is this one, where the whistling is much more prominent and it has a heavier beat to it. You can hear the bass a little more. And then there's the 3rd one, which actually is played, I think, in the next minute.
It is. That one's played when he's running from the security guard.
And that one is also, and that one has a different tense, but the whistle is also a part of it.
Yeah.
It's a very cool motif, and it's interesting how each one works in each minute.
Yeah, I really like that. I think that's one of my favorite motifs that's used throughout.
It's a good one. We haven't gotten to my favorite yet, but hopefully I remember to bring it up when we get there. Since we were on the slow-mo bit, something else I really enjoyed that they did to kind of show Miles's anxiety and fear during this is the angle, when he's lifting that hand, that upward angle they have on him.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, how they shoot him from the floor, and you can just see how scared he still looks really nervous.
I think you can still see some of the sweat on it. I could be wrong. I might be imagining that. But yeah, it's just the hand moving so slow. That's, I think, when the line is said, is that, am I doing this in slow motion, or does it just feel that way?
Yeah. And then I love So when his land finally like uh when it cuts back to like seeing both of them,
Mm-hmm.
and she's just like, oh no, it's just Wanda, no G, that's crazy.
Yeah, that's
and,
crazy. And she's got like a small
um
smile, and then the hand just plops on her shoulder.
and yeah, the face that like both of them give each other, he's just like terrified, like deer in the headlights.
Yeah.
And then she's just like,
What just happened?
what are you doing? It also made me think like she also had this like realization that like, oh, he hasn't been listening to me. Like I've just been rambling to myself.
Like he did not. I did not to have to come up with this convoluted story. I kind of want to
Yeah.
know what her convoluted story was,
Yeah.
but we sadly don't hear it. Yeah, I wrote down. I love her face of confusion on that one, and then I love how when it switches back to Miles, you can see this is him trying so much to actually be like Uncle Aaron.
Yeah. Yeah. He's got the little the like the right side of his lips, raised, and
Yeah.
he just looks half asleep.
Yeah.
He's just like, hey,
See? Hey. Lowered the voice a little bit.
a lot of it.
A lot of it. Just a little bit.
That's his puberty voice. That's how you
He's
know.
remember
He's
we
a man.
we talked about it in the last episode. He's a man. Yeah, and Gwen's just like clearly like okay, like why are you doing this now?
Yeah. She's like, I'm gonna get out of here. You're a little weird
Like,
now.
this is awkward. This is weird. Then I feel really bad for Miles, because he gets that quick shock of like, oh, yeah. And then when he walks away, you can see that he's, like, embarrassed and ashamed.
Yeah.
Then his hand gets stuck in her hair.
Yeah, and he's quickly like, okay, gotta get this out. Gotta get this out.
Oh, crap, oh, crap. Which, quick shout out to the animators, because I love the way they animated Gwen's hair.
Yeah, well,
It's
I actually
very nice.
have a note about that, kind of.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, they
Is it
were
gonna
saying.
make me hate
I
you?
mean, no. This is a good note.
Okay.
It's so, hair is notoriously difficult to be able to like animate realistically.
Yeah.
And they were saying in the animator commentary how, I forget the woman's name they used for this because they just use like first names and then I forget them.
Fair.
But they were saying how she had a lot of difficulty getting the hand to work with like the way it interacted with the hair and how it stuck.
Yeah.
And like had to go back and forth between like, okay, we're gonna animate this and then like run a simulation to see how it should do and then like reanimate it, and there was something else in there that I didn't catch. But like yeah, there was a lot of back and forth to get this right. Yeah, because hair is just
So hard.
Yeah.
And like Disney has gone on about it a few times with a few different characters. The one that always comes to head with me when it comes to like notoriously difficult animation is actually Violet from The Incredibles.
Yeah.
Like her straight black hair, I forget what it was, but like people were trying to get who was the creative guy behind The Incredibles?
The director.
The director, yeah.
Brad Bird.
Brad Bird, yeah. Because I remember people were trying to talk with Brad Bird and saying, like, do something else with it. This is too hard. And he was stuck. Like, no, her hair is going to be straight down. We'll just figure it out. And they did. And it's, like, some of the best animation in that whole movie. Violet's always a good thing that comes to mind. I remember...
Frozen was the other
Frozen
big one.
was one. I was actually thinking Rapunzel from Tangled.
Oh, yeah.
And especially because her hair glowed. I forget. I think they had quite a few animators on that one, and like how hard it was to animate that. Because especially with these hairs is like, what really makes or breaks hair is not just the movement, but in 3D animation, if you don't animate the individual strands.
Yeah, like how clumped together is it?
Yeah, like it's just like that's not how hair works. I know with Merida, again, bringing up Disney again, I know with Merida, they had to animate every individual hair just for it to look good. Because if it did it, like, it just didn't move right if they tried to animate it another way. Yeah, hair is notoriously hard to animate. And they did a great job with it, especially with the sticking to the hand. I love how there were some like big chunks and then just some like smaller individuals.
Yeah, it's a nice mix of like it being difficult, but like or like complicated versus not. Like a lot of the bigger chunks move together, but
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if they still just like had to animate those individually, or if they're like, okay, this is one chunk of hair, and we'll let it. Because like you can notice
Yeah.
that like with some of the way it bounces on some of them,
Mm-hmm.
it it seems like it moves sort of togetherish, but then has a bit of like fluidity to it, where like the back part of the thing like like it compresses a little bit and
Mm-hmm.
expands.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know how they would have had to animate that. I think it tends to vary with like how the hair is styled, the system they're using, and even just like the texture of the hair.
Yeah, they also said in the director's commentary that this scene, like the scene where his hand gets stuck and they're
Mm-hmm.
spinning around, was one of the it's been in since the first draft of the movie. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's always been in here, and they just it was also one of the earlier scenes that because it's been in since the beginning. It was one of the earlier ones that they were animating as well.
That feels like there's pressure on that.
Yeah. It
Like,
also gives you a lot more time to get it right, though.
that's true. That's true. And boy, did they get it right. Uh, yeah, that feels like there'd be too much pressure. I'm like, I have to get this right, or else we might not have a movie. Speaking of them spinning around, I love how when like Miles is trying to get his hand out of her hair when they're spinning, he says, "It's just puberty." And Gwen immediately snapbacks, "I don't think you know how puberty works," or something like that.
Yeah, I don't think you know what that is. And then I love his plan is like she's just like just relax, and he's just like I'm gonna pull really hard.
Yeah, and it's just like, that's a terrible plan. And I'm like, yes, Gwen, it is a terrible plan. Like, pulling it as hard as you can is the worst idea. Like, it's painful. I don't know how many more guys can relate to. Well, I know you have, because you've always had pretty short hair.
Yeah, is my hair is really long right now in that it's about twice as thick as my
I was
fingers.
gonna say, is it a whole 2 inches?
Not even. It's probably like an inch long right now, and so
You
I
hippie.
definitely need to get it cut. Yeah, I know. I'm so crazy. Um, and so I have to cut it sometime soon because I'm starting to get bedhead.
Yeah.
Yeah, so right after he says that, and when they start, he starts counting down to when he pulls it. The way Gwen then like shifts and just like throws him over her shoulder, but the way she does it is just like super smooth and really cool.
So cool.
And they also do a really in one of the early minutes when we were talking about fighting, they do something really pretty good in that like when it does the cut, it cuts back in time a little bit. So
Oh, I didn't
so
notice that.
like you see her put her foot on Miles and start to pull, and it's not like a super long back in time, but then
Mm-hmm.
when it cuts to the like behind the shot of her, it's when she like plants her foot and starts to pull into Miles a bit more, and then pulls it over, and it's just like the way she like shifts her body weight and like plants her one foot underneath like completely underneath Miles, so she'll get a good amount of leverage,
Yeah.
and then her other foot just like in the middle of his stomach, which would have had to hurt like whew. That's she would have been a couple inches lower. Miles would definitely not be able to use his cool voice anymore. um,
It really got
it's when pretty much when the minute ends, and it you don't see the landing, and it just cuts to the doorway of the nurse's office.
One thing I was gonna say before you brought up how he wasn't gonna be a man anymore.
No, not a man. I didn't say that. I said he wasn't going to be able to use his cool voice anymore.
Voice anymore. Right. Actually, the trick to like have it on the stomach is, now I don't know if you do this in stage combat, because I didn't get that far when I took unarmed, but I know when you do stomach punches, you do hit like the lower part of the stomach.
Yeah.
To avoid actually injuring. When you actually fight, you aim a little higher, more towards the abdomen. When you're doing it, you're aiming lower, more towards the lower core, so you can engage that muscle when you're getting actually punched.
There's a lot more play involved there, because it's really squishy at that part.
Yeah, there's that too. It's more because like the person who's getting punched can then like kind of because you contract the muscle when you're doing it as well, so that gives the illusion of like, oh crap, I just got hit. So it's a combination of contracting that muscle, and then it's a real quick bounce.
Yeah, I think in this instance, the placement of her foot makes more sense, because that's pretty much the center of where his like weight would be, and so she'll be able to like, and because she's pulling down on his straps, he'll just pivot around. Her body as she like slides more under him and then just pulls him over, and you can already like, you can see before it cuts to the behind her, like you can see his weight already getting lifted up a little bit.
I think she more has to worry about flipping that backpack than actual miles.
Yeah,
that backpack's huge.
Yeah, I really like it, like even for as quick as it is, it really does. There's a lot of little stuff that they do in it.
Yeah, and the point of me bringing up the whole stage combat stuff was like, it even works placement wise. Like, knowing from what I know from doing the stomach punches, you would be very similar placement to what you do to flip someone over you. But obviously, you'd also have your partner helping you get over, because they have to fall correctly. But it's a nice little thing, because it's like, no, there's science behind it.
The last thing that I have for this minute is just as they're whirling around, in the background, the classmates you see, this is another instance where you can see like, some of the unique animation that they did for this, because they don't do any actual motion blur for like characters and stuff. They just painted streaks, so the people in the background are just streaked out, and like there's still a bit of that like the like color offset that they do to indicate like out of focusness. And it's like as you pan through it, you just see everything, instead of being like blurry and streaked, instead of being blurry and through motion blur, it's just streaked, and everything like the details a little bit less. And
I actually thought they did it more because I see that done in like comic books.
Yes and no. I mean, yes, because they do that there, but I mean, it's also because the whole movie just kind of feels like a comic book.
You're right.
And they stuck with it that way because that was that stylistic choice. But yeah.
The last thing I have for this minute is actually just a little detail I noticed in that very last frame when we're at the nurse's office. It's the vending machine right next to it.
Yeah.
It's called Green Vend, and the thing I found, I don't know, just kind of amusing, is that before you put any of the buttons or like money in anything, there's the Vision's Daily Calories Guide.
Yeah.
And it's just this giant thing that's like written, you can't make out any of it, but I'm like, wow. Like, I've seen some big vending machines. I don't think I've ever seen one that has calorie counters on it.
Yeah, or also like that one's even like twice as wide as a normal one.
Yeah,
almost.
that's like that's like one of those vending machines that you see at like airports where you can get like, I'm gonna get some new headphones or something like that. One of those technology ones.
The real last thing I lied about before. um, the real last thing that I wanted to bring up on as Spider-Man or as Miles is getting thrown over Gwen's like shoulder, on the wall behind him above the entrance, you can make out some. It looks like they're probably like Latin motto, but it's really hard to make out. It looks like, maybe the word state is there, maybe the word main is there, but those aren't really Latin words. And
it's way
responsibility
too hard to
looks
read.
like it might be one of the words.
Yeah.
Maybe they have the Spider-Man, great power comes great responsibility over it,
Or
and it's just the
maybe
Latin
they
version of it.
With great ability comes great accountability. Maybe they have that written up.
Yeah, his dad wasn't just making things up; he was just saying the school motto. But then also behind him, you can see more of the school flags, or more of the flags of, I'm guessing, students from the school. And going from left to right along the top, you get one that looks like it's. I couldn't figure out. I'm guessing it's a fictional flag, but I couldn't make it out super clearly. These are much lower resolution than the ones we saw earlier in the movie. And so that one's just got, it's a pretty much all blue flag with a red square in the top left-hand corner of it. It's pretty much like the American flag, but if the blue part was red, there was no stars on it, and the stripes were just a blue field. And then next to that one, it looks like the Albanian flag, but the crest you can't like really make out clearly, but that one's a pretty recognizable flag. And then we have the Chile flag, but there's not a star drawn on it. And then next to that, I'm guessing is the El Salvadorian flag, but there's like a huge blue like thing in the center of it where the crest should be, like a lighter blue. So I'm not sure about that one. Maybe El Salvador has an ever so slightly different flag.
That sounds
and the next one,
like it. My one friend from school is Salvadorian, so she had the flag hanging in her room.
Yeah. The next one's also I find kind of interesting. It's the Mauritanian flag, but it's the old flag of it. They updated the flag in August of 2017, so this is the just green and gold flag without the red bars on the top and bottom.
It takes a while to animate and like create things, so I wonder I'm wondering, depending when they did it, it's like, we'll just keep it this way instead of trying to go back and fix it.
And they might not even have known it was updated, depending on
there's
what
that
kind
too
of news they would be paying attention to.
They had a movie to make sure.
And then you have the Somalian flag and American flag, and then next to that it looks like it might be the Chilean flag again, but you can't see the star on it. And then the flag after that, I am almost positive that it's another fictional flag. It might be one of the fictional Middle Eastern countries that they have in the in universe, because it's just a like light blue background with the left side has like a blue triangle cut out from the bottom left to like the top third, and then it's got a star and crescent on the right hand side of it. And then there's some red and white flag next to that one on the wall. That one, like you only get a brief glimpse of it because Miles's body and then Gwen's leg blocks it, and so I couldn't see any more distinguishing marks other than the fact that it's got that red left hand. The left like third is a red bar, and then the right 2/3 look like a white field. And then next to that are the two really distinguishable ones, which is the UK and Swedish flags, and then what I'm guessing might be the Kingdom of Croatia Slovenia flag, but that flag is from the early 20th century, so maybe they stayed a kingdom through all of
again
World
multiverse.
War II, and
very well possible.
Or they reformed after the fact, and that's what that area looks like now, maybe.
Or maybe they
um,
just really like the flag.
that's also a really real possibility. Again, I could be wrong because this one, like, we only see like half of the flag, and it's really blurry in the background, so you can't really make it out too clear. But that was the closest flag I could find when looking into that. And then we have another recognizable flag, the flag from Denmark. Um, and then the last one was a really confusing one because it really looks like a flag, an anarchist flag, um, specifically the Confederación Nacional de Trabajo and the Federación Anarquista Ibérica, which, for our non-Spanish speaking population and those who just can't stand my terrible accent, um, it's the National Confederation of Labor and the Iberian Anarchist Federation. They were an anarchist group during the Spanish Civil War. So it looks a lot like their flag, which is just um, the flag's bisected from the top left to bottom right, and it's just red field on one side and black field on the other. But this one's, well, I guess theirs is reversed from this one, and it's also got two white circles on it on the either corners of the field. So it's not exactly like it. So maybe the anarchists won the Spanish Civil War, and that's what the Spanish flag looks like now.
Or maybe, like, we're just completely off and it's like some sort of, like, signal flag.
Yeah, but a lot of them seem like they're typical country flags.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're weird and seem like they're supposed to be country flags.
If anyone knows what that flag is, please let us know.
Yeah, so that was just my last observation for this minute.
Thank you all for listening. We'll be back on Wednesday. Can't wait to see you then when we're talking about minute 17. See you next time.
Bye.